Dev agencies seem to have a very bad reputation among the general market, right? Especially if you do some cold outbound on LinkedIn, email, or whatever you are going to do, you will face very strong opposition, right? Like, and I would state stronger resistance than in most other industries and service sectors that you may be active in. And I believe one of the major reasons for that is that people had obviously a lot of bad experiences with service providers that are building software products, right? And I believe the main reason for that is that when people hire a dev agency or freelancer, a developer in general, they tend to hire for the wrong thing, right? Thinking back, a lot of people always asked us what technical skills we have, right? And obviously, the result for a lot of that bad reputation is usually bad products, right? So it definitely makes sense that people really focus on your technical skills, how proficient are you in that language, in that framework, and so on and so forth, right? But in our experience, or in my personal experience, it's really not just about that. While technical skills are very important, right? A lot of people have technical skills and are really good at them, but even the best technically skilled developers may be building a shitty or bad product, right? And the reason for that is they oftentimes just focus on what to build, but not why and how to build, right? So when you as a founder approach a dev agency, and the first thing they focus on is a feature set and what it may cost and so on, right? That's a very process oriented approach, and just focusing on their narrow skill set as building or executing the project itself, right? So, and it really depends on what your expectation may be. If you have a really crystal clear perspective or goal that you know that you want to achieve, right, and you really want it to have built that way, that absolutely makes sense, right? Because then you really just need executors, and a lot of amazing people can do that job. But most of the time, like I would even dare to say, like 99% of all projects of all founders always have some kind of uncertainty or things they still need to evaluate, test. Some might even have like just a rough idea and want to test and build that, right? So there are a lot of things to unpack, and that's where these maybe very technically skilled developers that only focus on building are really a bad choice, right? And that's where a lot of that bad reputation comes from, in my opinion, right? But when you actually engage with a product studio, which is what a lot of these dev studios call themselves, like including ourselves, that don't want to fall into that bucket, they really try to position themselves as some kind of a product market fit oriented dev agency, right? So this is exactly, if you look at my personal LinkedIn, what you will see, right? And I really think that's a much better approach. And no wonder most dev agencies try to focus on that approach in some capacity, right? Some more, some less, obviously, right? Everyone has their different approaches. Some may be better, some may be worse, right? Everyone falls differently on that scale, and every agency may have different advantages for your specific project, right? So I'm not saying that PMF agency like ours is better than all dev agencies, right? And vice versa. So it really depends on what your goal is. And the big difference here is these product market fit oriented agencies really try to build something with you that people want, right? And the main difference here is to, like, in its simplest form, to focus on the MVP approach, right? Which almost all agencies do nowadays, by trying to be around 15K project budget or something like that, 20K, and trying to get a first version out that you can test. Right, so that's in its simplest form already in that direction. And I would argue that's the right approach for, like, the minimal approach that you should have for all projects, no matter how crystal clear your goal actually is, you should really do that. And that's why all agencies actually focus on that. Except maybe some enterprise-focused agencies and so on, or agencies that have public clients like governments and so on. They of course work completely differently, right? That's a different scale. But for all others, that's not the case, right? And of course, you then can go further down the road, right? Like as we do, for example, we do have our fractional co-founder program where we really evaluate with some clients over weeks what to build, right? Should we even build that? Who should we build it for, right? So really doing research, talking with users and so on, things that actually just founders themselves can do. That's where we also come in, right? So that's kind of the basic idea. There's a huge spectrum where you may be on, and as mentioned, it depends on what you want and need. But in general, you should be leaning more toward that product-oriented approach when building software, because maintaining and building software is just incredibly expensive, and you want to avoid unnecessary iterations at all costs, right? And almost all software projects that you find out there, right, it may not seem like that, but the majority is just wasted time altogether, right? Nobody's using it, or they're just briefly using it and leave the software product forever. So I really urge you to focus more on that research and product management aspect of it. And once you did that, right, either with an agency or by yourself, you will build better products with whatever agency, freelancer, whatever you go with.